Deck just got a big discount. Even aside from that, yesterday was an exciting day for the Steam Deck. Valve continues to celebrate its 1-year birthday with a brand new happy birthday video. The absolute biggest news from that, of course, is that the Steam Deck is now on sale, so you really have no reason not to buy one at this point. But also, they shout out the community, they bring us a massive update with some long-awaited features, and they're bringing the Steam Deck to retail stores. Sort of. I'll tell you all about it in today's Deck News Roundup because I don't think there's anyone that wants to see the Steam Deck in stores more than I do, and the number one store I would want to see the Steam Deck at is actually today's sponsor, Micro Center. Micro Center is literally my happy place. They've held me down time and time again, and I'm so happy to work with them because they have a bunch of awesome sales going on right now. It even includes this Asus 27-inch 170Hz gaming monitor that you can dock your Steam Deck to, because what good is having an amazing computer if you don't have a great monitor to go with it? Micro Center has gone mad all of March with their new monitor madness, and this monitor in particular is sick. It's 2560 by 1440, 27-inch, 170Hz, not to mention HDR compatibility, which is important considering Valve is adding HDR functionality to the Steam Deck. They have a bunch of monitors on sale, so check the link in the description for more information, or better yet, come into the store. They're opening 3 new stores in the next 2 years, so keep an eye out if you don't already have one near you, but they have the most amazing and knowledgeable staff that can help you narrow down your search for whatever you're looking for, whether you're a seasoned shopper or it's your first time. But if it is your first time, make sure to redeem this coupon for a free 256GB SSD because heck yeah, it's free. So yeah, check out Micro Center online or in person for these amazing deals. Thank you Micro Center for sponsoring this video. The most significant news of the day for the Deck Gang was the 10% discount announced for the Steam Deck. This news caught the attention of the entire gaming community, and for good reason. The price reduction means that the 64GB model is now available for $359 USD, which places it in the same range as the highly sought after Nintendo Switch OLED model. Additionally, the 256GB and 512GB models have received discounts of $50 and $65 respectively, which brings the 256 down to $476 and the 512GB model down to $584. Overall, this makes the Steam Deck a lot more affordable and accessible, and it's definitely surprising to see Valve offering such a discount so soon after the Steam Deck's release. It's possible that they have ample supply at this point, which relates to the Steam Deck being available at retail, and it's even possible that the base price is no longer as daunting to the company as it was a couple years ago when Gabe Newell said that hitting the $400 price point was painful but critical. Regardless of the reason behind the discount, this is excellent news for gamers who have been waiting to get their hands on the Steam Deck. It's worth noting that this news may be concerning for Valve's competitors such as Neo and GPD, who are trying to close the gap between their devices' prices and that of the Steam Deck. Nonetheless, competition is a crucial aspect of the gaming industry, and Valve's discount is effectively a result of that. If you've been considering purchasing a Steam Deck, this is the perfect time to do so. If you've been considering getting a second or even third Steam Deck, now's the time for that too. If you do decide to make a purchase, don't forget to check out my Ultimate Starter Guide, which is the most comprehensive way to get started with the deck. Either way, this discount being offered by Valve has made the Steam Deck even more accessible to gamers, and it's an opportunity that I'm sure people will take advantage of, which is awesome because the most unique strength of the Steam Deck is its community. And that brings me to one of the most fascinating things about the happy birthday video from Valve. They made a point to call out the device's community as their very first topic. This is something I emphasized in a recent video of mine where I highlighted the community as the Steam Deck's unique strength. It's encouraging to see Valve acknowledging the importance of this community and how it has contributed to the handheld success. The video showcased the fun pictures that people have taken with their Steam Decks, but the community offers more than that too. There's software like EmuDeck, CryoUtilities, and Decky Loader, as well as accessories like Deckmate, Steam Deck skins, and a range of 3D printed goodies. The community has been a steadfast component of the Steam Deck, and if you were playing a drinking game where you took a shot every time I said community, well, you may be dead now. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. If you are still alive though, would you kindly hit the like and subscribe and comment down below if you know the reference. One thing that Valve announced, which I'm hoping is relevant to the community, is Steam Deck startup movies. In a previous video, I mentioned that Valve is working on incorporating these startup movies into the Steam Point Shop and adding a way to set them directly from within the Steam Deck's gaming mode, and that feature is now shipped. If you go to the customizations tab in the settings menu, you will now see a few options here. You can go to the Point Shop from here and redeem some startup movies, and then either set the one you want to use or set it to a shuffle option, which will do as it says on the tin and delight you with a random startup video every time you boot your Steam Deck. That's nice for me because I went ahead and just bought all the new videos because I literally don't spend my points on anything, and I figured this was a good reason to spend some. One more point on these movies is that you can use them in big picture mode for your desktop too. Pretty cool, Valve, pretty cool. If you've already added custom startup videos before this update, then you'll be happy to know that this doesn't mess up anything you've already added. Any of the videos you've had prior will show up here in a folder. That's helpful because, as you can see, I have my own fan to deck startup videos that are accessible the old way. You can grab these from steamdeckrepo.com if you are interested. I asked Valve if devs would be able to add their own videos to the Point Shop with a Steam developer account. The Point Shop often has content from games, and I think it'd be cool to have game-related startup videos. No word back from Valve on that, but I'll keep you updated. Alongside the Steam Deck movies, the new Steam Deck client update also brings some big features from the beta channel up to the stable channel. This means local network game transfers are now available on the stable channel, and if you have a DualSense Edge controller, well, the back buttons will now work for that. The patch notes also mentioned that advanced HDR options are in the developer settings, but I couldn't find any HDR settings regardless of what I did or where I looked, so I'm not sure what I'm missing. Yet another big announcement of the day was the fact that Valve is bringing Steam Decks to retail shops in Asia. Here's exactly what they said, quote, "For our friends in Hong Kong and Taiwan, starting March 17th, the Steam Deck is now available for hands-on demo and purchase at Predator Pro shops in Hong Kong and Acer stores in Taiwan," end quote. I'm going to take a second to gloat because I've been asking for the Steam Deck in retail stores for a long time, and so many people told me it's just not possible. The margin was too thin, they said. It would promote scalping, they said. In fact, I was petty enough to go find those comments and tell them all about the great news, but don't worry, I balanced out my pettiness by gifting them some games. I'm assuming they redeemed those keys by now, but if not, they might just be up for grabs. Anyway, I looked a few of those stores up, and as you can imagine, they're basically boutique computer stores in malls and about, and that's why I said Micro Center seems like a perfect fit. I'm very curious to see what the hands-on demo looks like and what games will be included. I'll be watching the Steam Deck subreddit like a hawk, hoping to see some people share what the demo looks like, but I'm guessing it's going to have crowd favorites like the ones Valve highlighted in the Happy Birthday video, stuff like Hi-Fi Rush and Vampire Survivors. But yeah, like I said, this is great news. A significant portion of consumers still prefer to buy products in person rather than online, and being able to see and touch the device before purchasing it can be a big factor in their decision-making process. Having the Steam Deck available in retail stores can just increase its visibility and awareness among casual gamers who just may not have heard of it otherwise. It's also interesting to see that Valve is starting with Hong Kong and Taiwan for their retail push. Maybe if it's successful there, it could pave the way for further expansion into other regions. That's why this move by Valve is a positive step towards making the Steam Deck more accessible to consumers and increasing its overall adoption. The Fox tweeted about this too, saying, quote, "I still feel like this is the next step for Valve to get Steam Deck to double-digit million units sold," end quote, and I absolutely agree. Double-digit millions does feel a tad out of reach, to be honest, but if they're gonna do it, they're gonna need retail. Here's hoping that they get there. All of these announcements constitute a bit of a media blitz from Valve on the Steam Deck's first year birthday. It started with the interview with Rock Paper Shotgun, followed closely by the announcement of ray tracing on deck, and now this week we have a 10% sale, Steam Deck startup movies, retail stores, and these all come alongside an additional interview, this time with PC Gamer. PC Gamer has been trickling some of the high points of that interview. The first one is that, yeah, Valve likes the idea of an OLED Steam Deck, but it's not as simple as it sounds. Here's what Pierre Lou said, quote, "I think people are looking at things like an incremental version and assume that it's an easy drop-in, but in reality, the screen is at the core of the device. Everything is anchored to it. Basically, everything is architected around everything when you're talking about a device that small. I think it would be a bigger amount of work than people are assuming it would be. I don't think we're discounting anything, but the idea that you could just swap in a new screen and be done, it would need more than that to be doable," end quote. Okay, that makes sense and sounds reasonable. One thing about the Steam Deck is that it's not haphazard or thrown together. It's all very intentional, and this quote sort of reaffirms that. The other headline from the PC Gamer interview is actually around SteamOS 3.5. That's a big update that's coming soon, and there is a performance improvement coming. I've talked a bunch in the past about how helpful it is to use PowerTools plugin to disable SMT for emulation, and apparently this is the result of a long-running bug. The fix to this bug is in a new kernel that's going to be used in SteamOS 3.5, which should mean that we no longer need to disable SMT to get that juicy performance boost on emulators and some specific games. What I find interesting though was how they weighed whether or not to include a setting similar to the one we see in PowerTools. Here's what they said. Quote, "We're always straddling that line of are we this very complex user product or are we just this very appliance-like product that's actually a really easy way to get into PC gaming? We recognize that without the options and everything that's powerful about PC gaming, the Steam Deck is nothing. It represents PC gaming, but there's a lot of value in having that appliance-like experience. So we're always trying to represent both and make sure that everyone has access to both. We didn't want to be in a situation where people have to go turn off some settings for things to perform well. We just wanted to get that out of the way." End quote. That makes sense, and I think that balance is what makes the Steam Deck what it is, and overall that does a great job of explaining why we haven't seen this setting be made official on the Steam Deck. Alright, if you've been paying attention to the badges for the games I've been displaying on the screen, then you know there are a bunch of great games on sale right now, and that is thanks to the last of the big Valve announcements. The Steam Spring Sale is now live. Real quick, I'm going to go through my recommendations for this sale. Kena Bridge of Spirits is at an all-time low price of $20 thanks to its 50% discount. It's verified and plays great on deck, and is honestly perfect for the handheld. Red Dead Redemption 2 reaches its own historical low at $20. This is rated playable outside of some small text and a launcher. It plays surprisingly well on deck. Cryo Utilities gives this a 5% frame boost, so make sure to use that here. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is somehow 90% off. That makes it $4, which seems like a mistake. It's labeled playable thanks to the EA launcher, but it's absolutely a must-own game. Deep Rock Galactic is down to under $10, and it's one of those games that's somehow mega popular but still kind of flies under the radar. Grab a couple of friends and mine and blast your way through procedurally generated caves. It's rated playable thanks to sometimes needing keyboard input and having hard to read text. Subnautica recently got verified on deck, reaches a historical low of $10, and has overwhelmingly positive reviews. Pretty much a no-brainer. Amid Evil is modern Hexen and Heretic. Gorgeous visuals, non-stop action, it's $6, and it's verified on deck. A must-play if you like retro shooters. Resident Evil 2 is now only $10. That's another obvious must-play for the Steam Deck considering it's verified and has overwhelmingly positive reviews. If you don't own Undertale, you might as well buy it now. It's $3 and it's better than whatever you think you're going to get from an Earthbound sequel. I feel like Yakuza 0 often gets down to $5, but that doesn't make it any less worth picking up. Another verified title, another overwhelmingly positive title, another must play. You know what you need to do. Finally is a personal favorite with Pac-Man CE DX Plus at the historical low of $250. One of the best arcade games ever made. It's verified and it works great on deck. So yeah, what a busy week for Valve. I started the year off saying that Valve was planning on shipping 4 big features, and now we almost have all 4. We're still missing HDR, but this week they launched the Startup Movies feature as well as the Local Network Game Transfers feature. Last week they launched Ray Tracing. I talk about that in my last video, so check it out. Deck Gang out. Goodbye.